Hey, you must be Nena, right? Ada said, extending her hand. Welcome to Hillcrest. Thanks, Nena said, shaking Ada's hand. This place is pretty different. Different is one way to put it, Amaka replied with a smirk. You get used to the weirdness. We all did. Nena laughed nervously, not sure if Amaka was joking. Hey guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're just joining us, this is Folktales by Serafina. Kindly leave a comment, like, share, and don't forget to subscribe. Please turn on your notification bell icon to get a notification from us when next we post. It was the beginning of the new school year at Hillcrest Boarding School, a prestigious institution nestled on the edge of a quiet town. The large iron gate creaked as students poured in, dragging their trunks behind them, while parents exchanged quick farewells before driving off. Among the crowd was Nena, a transfer student from the city, clutching her admission letter with a mixture of excitement and anxiety. Hillcrest was not just any school. It was known for its discipline, rigorous academics, and old traditions. But behind the grandeur of the towering buildings and vast lawns, there were rumors, dark rumors that something wasn't quite right about the place. As she entered the tall, Gothic-style dormitory building, Nena felt a cold draft rush past her. The hallways were dimly lit with narrow windows that let in the little light. She had been assigned to Dorm 6, a room she would share with 3 other girls. On the way to her dorm, she noticed the paintings along the hallway, old portraits of serious-looking headmasters and headmistresses, their eyes almost following her as she walked. When she finally reached her dorm, she was greeted by the sound of laughter. 3 girls were already unpacking. Ada, the leader of the group, with a confident air about her. Ifeoma, the quiet and studious one, and Amaka, always ready with a mischievous grin. Hey, you must be Nena, right? Ada said, extending her hand. Welcome to Hillcrest. Thanks, Nena said, shaking Ada's hand. This place is pretty different. Different is one way to put it, Amaka replied with a smirk. You'll get used to the weirdness, we all did. Nena laughed nervously, not sure if Amaka was joking. She spent the rest of the evening settling in, but as night fell, a strange unease crept over her. The dormitory seemed too quiet, the kind of silence that made her feel like she wasn't alone. At night, as the other girls fell asleep, Nena found herself tossing and turning in her bed. She stared at the ceiling, the faint glow of the moon casting shadows across the room. It must have been around midnight when she first heard it, a soft whisper just outside the door. Nena sat up, straining to hear. The whisper was indistinct, like someone murmuring from behind a wall. Her heart began to race. She glanced around the room, but her roommates were fast asleep. Trying to shake off the feeling, Nena lay back down, but the whispers continued, growing louder. She couldn't make out the words, but it was unmistakably a voice. She slipped out of the bed and crept towards the door, her hand hovering over the handle. Just as she was about to open it, the whisper stopped. The hallway outside was silent. Nena, what are you doing? Ada's voice came from behind. Nena jumped and turned around. I thought I heard something outside, Nena said, trying to steady her voice. Ada looked at her with a serious expression. It's probably just the wind. This building is old and it makes strange noises at night. You'll get used to it. But Nena wasn't convinced. Something about those whispers felt too real. She climbed back into her bed, her mind racing. The shadows in the room seemed to grow darker, as if they were watching her. The next morning at breakfast, Nena noticed that the other students seemed a bit off. Conversations were hushed, and a few of the older students exchanged knowing glances. When she sat down with her roommate, she decided to ask, Is there something strange about this place? She asked, keeping her voice low. Ada glanced around before answering. There are stories, mostly just stuff to scare the new kids. Don't let it get to you. Amaka leaned in closer, her voice a whisper. They say this dormitory is haunted. Nena froze. Haunted? By what? No one knows. Amaka continued, her eyes gleaming with mischief. But people hear things, see things. Shadows have moved when they shouldn't. Stop it, Ifeoma interrupted, glaring at Amaka. You are just going to freak her out. Those are just silly stories. But Nena couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to it. Later that day, she overheard two older girls talking about something that had happened the previous year. A student who had vanished without a trace. They spoke in hushed tones, and when they noticed Nena listening, they quickly changed the topic. That night, the whispers returned, louder than before. This time, they weren't outside the door. They were in the room. Nena sat up in bed, her heart pounding. The shadows seemed to dance on the walls, swirling like smoke. She could feel a presence in the room, watching her. Suddenly, Ada woke up, her eyes wide with fear. Did you hear that? She whispered. Before Nena could answer, Amaka sat up too. It's happening again, she whispered, just like last year. What do you mean? Nena asked, her voice trembling. Ada hesitated before answering. Last year, there was a girl. She started hearing things, seeing things, and then she disappeared. Nena felt a chill run down her spine. What happened to her? No one knows, Ada said. But the night before she vanished, she told us she had seen something, a shadow lurking in the corner of the room. She thought it was just her imagination until it moved. Over the next few days, the whispers became more frequent and Nena began seeing things out of the corner of her eye. Dark shapes that seemed to disappear the moment she turned to look. She wasn't the only one. Ada and Amaka both admitted to hearing the whispers too, though Ifeoma remained skeptical. One night as they were getting ready for bed, Ada spoke up. We need to do something. This is getting worse. What can we do? Nena asked, her voice shaking. I don't know, Ada replied, but we can't just sit here and wait for it to happen again. Amaka for once looked serious. There is a rumor that the dormitory was built on something, an old burial ground or something like that. Maybe that's why these things keep happening. Nena shivered. You mean ghosts? Maybe, Amaka said, or something worse. That night, the whispers didn't come, but just as Nena began to relax, she heard a loud thud down the hall. She bolted upright in bed, her heart racing. Ada and Amaka were already awake, their faces pale. What was that? Nena whispered. I don't know, Ada replied, her voice trembling, but we need to find out. The three of them crept out of their dormitory and into the dark hallway. The only sound was the soft creak of the floorboards beneath their feet. As they moved towards the source of the noise, they noticed something strange. The shadows on the walls seemed to ripple, as if they were alive. They reached the end of the hallway, where a single door stood slightly ajar. Nena pushed it open, and they stepped inside. The room was empty, but there was a strange feeling in the air, a heaviness that pressed down on them. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind them. Panic surged through Nena as she rushed to the door, pulling at the handle, but it wouldn't budge. The room grew colder, and the shadows on the walls began to move, twisting and swirling like a storm. In the corner of the room, a dark figure began to take shape. It was a shadow, but it had substance, thick and impenetrable, like a mass of darkness that had broken free from the wall. It moved towards them slowly, its form shifting and distorting. We have to get out of here, Ada shouted, pulling at the door. Nena backed away from the shadow, her breath coming in short gasps. The figure loomed closer, its presence suffocating. She could hear the whispers again, almost deafening. They weren't coming from the shadow. They were coming from inside her own head. Just as the shadow reached out for her, the door burst open and Ifeoma stood in the doorway, her face pale. Come on, she yelled. Need to be told twice. The girls sprinted out of the room and down the hallway, not stopping until they were safely back in their dorm. They slammed the door behind them and collapsed into their beds, gasping for breath. What was that? Nena asked, her voice shaking. I don't know, Ada replied, But whatever it is not human. The next morning, they decided they couldn't stay in Dorm 6 any longer. The whispers, the shadows, the presence, it was all too much. They packed their bags and went to the headmistress, demanding to be moved to a different dormitory. But the headmistress was a stern woman with sharp eyes. "Refuse. There is no other dormitory available," she said coldly. "You will stay where you are." "But there is something wrong with that place," Amaka protested. "You can't make us stay there." The headmistress' eyes narrowed. "You will stay in Dorm 6 or you will leave Hillcrest altogether. Those are your only options." Defeated, the girls returned to the dormitory. But that night something changed. The whispers were louder than ever, and the shadows seemed too close around them, pressing in from all sides. Nena couldn't take it anymore. She grabbed her bag and ran out of the dormitory. The others closed behind her. They fled into the night, not stopping until they were far from the school. As they looked back at the towering building, they saw it, the shadow, standing in the window of their dormitory, watching them with cold, empty eyes. They never returned to Hillcrest. No one ever spoke about what happened in Dorm 6 again, but the whispers never truly left, following them in their dreams, reminding them of the darkness that still lurked in the shadow of the old boarding school. Because in places like Hillcrest, some secrets have a way of lingering, waiting for the right moment to return. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, leave a comment, and share. We'll see you on our next video. Bye.